Welcome to Comedy Centric, your place for all things comedy. Every week, we'll discuss the legends and the people who built the business. The performers, writers, behind the scenes, and stories that you have never heard. So relax, take a load off, and join us for this episode of Comedy Centric. Now, the host of your show, nationally headlining comedian, a woman with a wicked sense of humor and a killer Jersey accent, Julia Scotti.
Oh, I'm here. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Julia Scotti, and this is
Kathy Caldwell. Hi.
There you go. And if Kathy's background looks a little different today,
I have fire.
she's discovered fire.
Kathy, make fire.
Kathy, big fire, big fire. Do you want to tell everybody?
And
you got a
fingers
tree
together. Yeah.
Still with the finger already?
Yeah. You know what? It's not getting better.
Well, maybe you ought to
have
go
to see. Yeah, I got to see a specialist. It's still swollen. I can't bend it. It's bad.
You still got the knob?
Oh yeah. Oh, I got a knob. See?
You just like doing that. It does look swollen though.
It is. Look.
Well, if you keep taking it off, well, all right. Enough with the finger.
So I
Tell
fell.
everybody we know why.
So I have a new background
because
I moved.
Where'd you go?
Which Julie is not happy about it at all. She hasn't talked to me.
I wasn't
going to
reference that. No, that's not true.
This is what happens. So I moved to Pittsburgh because that's where I'm originally from, and my folks are getting older, and that as happens, we
not
go
that
back
her
home.
Best friend isn't getting older and lives all alone. That's okay. Go ahead, continue.
You're a mean woman.
I know.
So I moved to Pittsburgh back home. I haven't been this happy in a long time, except Julia's not happy. But that's okay.
Are you really that happy?
I'm really happy.
Well, then I'm happy.
No, you're not. But I know. It's okay.
Why look cross-eyed to you? I just looked at myself. And I thought I looked cross-eyed for a minute.
No, you're okay. You're okay.
Okay.
You having a medical condition while we're on here?
No. I just, when I saw myself, I thought I was cross-eyed.
Or maybe you're just looking at the screen wrong.
Perhaps. Is that a real tree?
Nope. Fake.
You never had a tree when you lived over here.
Yes, I did.
I don't remember.
That little tree right there? That one right there?
No, you have a full-size tree there.
This one is not a full-size tree. Oh, this one back here, my brother-in-law, Jim, put together, and then I put the lights on it.
I don't have a tree ever because...
You want one of mine?
No. I have no one to celebrate.
I'm alone, but I'm here.
No, but you can walk to your mother's family's house and eat. You can eat a pork roast tonight. I'll just have a cheese sandwich. I gotta tell you.
So yeah, and I gotta say, my company allowed me to transfer to so I was able to keep my real job, and so I went to our offices in Pittsburgh today. They were so nice. Oh my God. I walked out of there like I just came from a family reunion and everybody hugged me.
Is there parking?
There's plenty of parking. It's free. And get this. The guy goes, the one of the big bosses, he goes, yeah, we have food every Tuesday and Wednesday. And so all of a sudden, like around 11:30, I smell this food. I'm like, I wonder what kind of food. I walk in, they have lamb chops.
Shut up.
I know. They had trade with
them. Makes lamb chops.
A Mediterranean.
They cater this?
Yes, a Mediterranean joint.
You should put in halal. Say you want some halal.
It was like halal. The one that was a spicy curry chicken. I was like, oh my God. It was so good. So good. And I'm like, how can you go wrong with Mediterranean food? Nice people. Pittsburgh.
I'm Mediterranean.
I drove through Carnegie. You remember Carnegie, that guy? A lot of history here.
What do you mean you drove through?
Well, not him, through the town of Carnegie.
Oh, that's a town? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. And it's so wild because when you drive through it, you feel it. You feel like that old industrial. It's hard to describe.
Is there a lot of is there a lot of guys, the immigrant-looking guys with black coal on their faces and the look
their
of
clothes are all
ripped up?
And,
Yeah.
There's a lot of those
Yeah.
guys, and they're like, "Can you spare a penny?" And
Brother, can you
I don't
spare
have
it?
hard to tell them inflation. You should probably raise
Well,
your
I'm glad
prices.
you're in a good place.
It's very
And I know it has. It has been hard for me. I'm
I
not going to
know,
lie
honey.
to you.
I know.
I didn't even want to talk to you.
I know, because I call and you let it go right to voicemail, and I go, "She's still."
That's not true. No, I was. I'll tell you off the air what happened this morning. We had a family situation, so
I'm sorry.
I'll
Okay.
tell you later. But
Oh,
no,
now
it's
you're gonna
all
make me
about.
feel bad.
It's all about you. No, it's all about
Oh
Kathy
no,
Caldwell.
no,
You know
Julie.
who it's all about? You
Who?
know who it's all about today?
Who?
Mr. Eddie Brill.
I can't
Do you know
wait.
Eddie? Do you know Eddie?
I never met him, but I certainly remember him from being, on Letterman and warming up the show there. And I believe he also did some MC work. Was it at Caroline's or the Improv where he did the open mic night? Maybe something like that, where he was the
I'm not
host
sure.
for
We'll ask him. You can ask him.
Yeah, but definitely a big fan, and I know he's had a
Again,
great
he's
career.
one of. I'll tell you the one thing that you're going to love about this interview. There will be no mention of the Chinese restaurant in Paramus.
The Jade Fountain Inn doesn't.
Not going to be. Not going to be.
Really?
Yeah. No.
Well, that's a little disappointing.
I'm sorry. What can I tell you?
Nothing.
Oh,
you can't tell
but
me
that's
anything.
That's our music. We're
gonna go find Eddie. He's in New York, right?
I don't know where he is. I think
we're gonna find him.
We come back. Eddie Brill. See
my Christmas trees.
And
Uno,
the
dos.
Christmas tree. And the fire. It's like an Osmond family thing. Yeah, I see.
Welcome to Fireside Chats.
Hi there, everybody. It's me, Julia. Hey, why am I talking to you now? Now, of all times? Because I just my new special on Dry Bar Comedy channel is just been released. It's called Julia Scotti Jersey Fresh, because that's what I am. I slap myself. That's how fresh I am. So you have to subscribe though to get the Dry Bar, and if you do, you get access to thousands of other comics. But see my special first, Jersey Fresh. And if you enter my name, Julia Scotti, it's my understanding that you will get a free month of Dry Bar. So go. What are you waiting for? So we're back. I'm excited. I'm smelling the food though, and I'm hungry. But
You're making soup, right?
Yeah, making escarole and beans.
Very nice.
Italian soul food. Anyway,
do you think our guest would like that?
He might if he were here. But you know what? He's traversed the world doing comedy. But he's also had an incredible career. He's and deserving of it too. And I'll tell him why when he gets here.
Okay.
So Eddie Brill was for 17 years associated with the David Letterman show, first as the warm-up and then as the comedy talent coordinator. He's everybody in show business knows who Eddie Brill is, and now so will you, the American public. So I'm proud to bring on one Mr. Eddie Brill. Hi there.
Hello, hi. I guess I should move over here to get into the thing. All right.
Yeah, you know what? In that shot, you look just like Joey Cola.
Yeah, Joey Cola looks exactly like my father. I mean, Joey looks more like my father than I do, and I look a lot like my father.
But you do bear a striking resemblance to Joey. Yeah. He's coming on in a couple of weeks, but I love Joey. Really a sweetheart. And you were a sweetheart, too. This is Kathy Caldwell, if you don't know.
Hi, Eddie.
Hi,
Kathy.
Where are you joining us from? New York?
Yeah, I'm in the East Village of Manhattan, where I've lived ever since college.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah.
Where he had a club called?
The Paper Moon. But that was actually the West Village, or Greenwich Village in the middle. That was on Thompson and Sullivan on 3rd Street, which eventually became the Boston Comedy Club. I started that room back in 1984.
Wow.
I remember. I mean, I have date books that have Paper Moon written in.
I have date books with your name in it, which is so convenient that it works out that way.
Yeah.
Does it say Julia Scotti?
No.
No.
The earlier one, no, it doesn't say Julia Scott.
Yeah.
It
Well,
was a
that would have been
magical
really
time.
like cool.
Yeah, it
Ooh,
would have
yeah,
been.
no,
Right?
spectacular.
Well, very prescient of Eddie. But what you moved down here from Boston after college? Yes,
Yeah, people think I'm from Boston, but I just went to college at
I
Emerson.
did too. I
Yeah,
thought you were from Boston. I saw you was doing research. You go New York. He's not from New
So
York.
you're
I'm
from
from
New York,
Brooklyn.
went to Boston, and then came back to New York.
I was born in Brooklyn. I used to talk like this when I was little, Bensonhurst. And then we moved to Florida for junior high school and high school. I lived in Hollywood, Florida, which is the opposite of Brooklyn. You know, I have met a lot of amazing people. It was beautiful. It was very racist. It was kind of shocking. You know, Florida's never really been that shocking when it comes to the white supremacy. That's, you know, I mean, there were streets named after white supremacists on the beach, you know, so Florida it was very shocking, but I had fun. I met a bunch of great people. I had a good school. And then when I graduated high school, I went right to college in Boston.
It's amazing how much insane talent came out of Boston, comedy talent, in that period of time. I mean, you could for an hour just read down the list. Now, you worked the clubs there, or did you come right to New York afterwards?
I was in a comedy group in college called the Emerson Comedy Workshop. And, you know, all of our friends, Dennis Leary and Mario Cantone and Laura Keitlinger and on and on. And before us, it was Andrea Martin and, you know, that ilk. And then after us, it was Jennifer Coolidge and, you know, Bill Burr. And I mean, it's just years and years. Jay Leno went to Emerson. Bill Dana went to Emerson. But Norman Lear had gone to Emerson. And I met him a year after we had started our comedy group. And it was wildly successful. And I said, you know, we have so many graduates and we'd really like to, you know, interact with some of them. The head writer of Saturday Night Live at the time was, you know, an Emerson graduate. And Norman Lear.
Who was that? Who was the head
Marilyn Suzanne Miller.
Okay.
Yeah. So she was in. And then, you know, a lot of people like Jerry Paris and, you know, from the Dick Van Dyke Show. And
Sure, yeah.
So I talked to Norman Lear and said, look, you know, we have this great group, and he put money up and the school matched it and formed a comedy writing department that lasts still this day. As a matter of fact, you can graduate for a degree in humor at Emerson now.
There was
Now,
go ahead, Kath.
No, I'm sorry. Did you go there for that reason, or did you find that as you were there?
It happened like the first week in college. You met funny people. Stephen Wright had gone to Emerson. You know, I mean, all of us were. Lauren Dombrowski, who ended up, you know, being the executive producer of Mad TV and head writer over there. We were all friends. We were all kids together.
But did you go there with that in mind to try to get into that business, or did you just go and that was what it was?
Yeah, I went for broadcast journalism or you know, radio or television, and I did it, but I like the comedy the mostest.
There was a contingent of people that came out of Yale too. It just seemed like that area was so fertile.
Yeah.
These
I mean, Dick Cavett
minds.
went to Yale, and he talks about all the people that went there. But it was very interesting, and it was very fun, and we were able to, you know, I started a children's program in improv and sketch, and then I started doing some stand-up improv and sketch at Emerson in the summer for a children's program. So we really developed this whole thing back in 1977, 78, something like that. And then I started doing some stand-up in Boston. We came down to New York a couple of times to visit my father and get on stage a little bit, but it didn't really rock for me. And I got a job in advertising, lying for a living. And I did that for a couple of years, you know, and then I remembered how much more fun I had telling the truth for a living. So and at the same time, the comedy club was offered to me by a guy I went to college with, the Paper Moon, to start comedy there. And, you know, I brought all my friends, you know, I just met Colin Quinn and Susie Essman and Mario Cantone, and all of us, we all were kids together. And I'd bring in comics from Boston and comics from San Francisco and LA and Chicago, the ones that weren't working comic strip or weren't, you know, they weren't in the clique at Catch a Rising Star. So I brought these Jake Johansson and Paula Poundstone and Bobcat Goldthwait and all these people from back in the day.
Did you say Jake Johansson?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I remember Jake. Yeah, I opened for him at the Improv in Pittsburgh one time. He's a
Yeah,
great
and one of
guy.
the nicest
Really,
guys, one of the most
yeah.
prolific comics I've ever known.
And incredibly funny too. Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
And it was so sad. Somebody heckled him right as he was closing his set, and I felt he was like, what the hell?" You know,
Yeah.
because you could tell it was like he was so not used to that, and
Right.
you know, especially where at his advanced career level, and he was like, "I can't believe I'm being heckled at this juncture," but he handled it like a pro. Was really a nice,
Right.
nice
Some
guy.
people can do that, and some people are some of the greatest comics in the world. Do just freak out when people start heckling.
Yeah.
And you know, audiences.
I think if you're not used to, if you've been moved to rarefied air for a while, and you're not, you don't expect that. Yeah, it can. It's a muscle, like anything else dealing with it.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of audiences think that we like heckling, and it's the complete opposite.
Yeah, I'm helping the show. No, you're not.
So,
in Europe as a comic, you work with audiences, and they're helping the show in a lot of ways by being part of the funny, because they're very savvy and smart. And not all audiences, but there are in Europe. It was really a pleasure because the audiences played with you, and it wasn't you weren't fighting against some guy who was jealous because his girlfriend was laughing at you, and she doesn't laugh at him like that. So now he all of a sudden, after a couple of beers, starts yelling out at the club, like, trying to be funny.
Where in Europe? What countries did you play?
I started working in England, working in London a lot, and then from one end of the country to the other. Then they turned me on to Ireland, which is one of the greatest places in the world, not only in the world, but to do comedy, because it's a history of storytellers that Ireland has. And then I started getting gigs through them in Paris and in Australia and all over the world. I worked Bangladesh. I worked many different places around the world, and it grew me up because although their scene wasn't as advanced, the audiences were smarter and demanded more, and that made me a better comic.
Did you get drunk people in the other countries doing stupid things? Okay, they still do that. It's not, we don't own that here
Right.
in the United States.
But most of the audiences, most of the audiences, they'll challenge a comedian if they're nervous. In Europe, I've seen them challenge people who are wobbly on stage, but if you can make them laugh, they appreciate you. And one of the things I learned, and we're just used to it in America, there's so much pandering in America. The comics pander. Give yourselves a round of applause for coming out tonight. Like, we've never, it's just a tool to get people to laugh without telling a joke. And you don't realize that until you're over there. The audiences will not put up with that. That's that American bullshit that, let's hear it for the troops kind of stuff, that getting applause on someone else's work kind of thing. And when first time I ever was going on stage to do my audition at the Comedy Store in London, I gave the MC my credits, and he looked at me like, "Fuck you." And I was like, "What?" And after I did well, thankfully, I was asked to stay the whole week. And about 3 days in, I was talking to the host. I go, "What was that treatment that you gave me that first day? You're so nice now." And he said, "Well, you came up to me and started bragging about your career, and I don't even know you." And I went, "What?" I said, "That was my intro." He said, "Intro?" He said, "Why would you have an intro?" He said, "Why would you tell the audience how funny you are?" He said, "You're a comic. Comedians who've done big TV shows who suck." He said, "That doesn't mean you're good because you have an intro. It's like just go out there, be funny, and the audiences will get that." And it was like, ah. And
that is revelatory. Yeah. I mean, let me ask you. You sold Paper Moon to Boston Comedy Club. Did you immediately go to California from there, or did you?
I was starting to go to California. I had gotten Star Search, and I went the weekend I was doing Star Search. I went over to the Comedy Store in the Improv, and Mitzi Short took me in like her child immediately the first day. And my child, who's a comedian, she's done the same for him, and not knowing it was my son for a long time.
Who's your son? Do I know?
Yeah, his name is Dan Madonia. He's been at it 14 years, and he's pretty damn good. He's also doing a lot of film work. And he makes me laugh, and that's Dom Irera said, "Hey, your son's funny," so I immediately the seal of approval, the seal of Irera.
So, all right. So you
Great.
go out to. I want to talk about those Mitzi years because you've written about them, and And by the way, I love reading your posts like that. So you go out there, and there's no place to live for you. You broke, like a million other comics that went out there. Why did she take you under her wing like that? What was it about you? Do you think?
She was just very loving. I mean, she I stayed with a friend of mine from high school in the suburbs, and that was fine. I would borrow her car when she came home from work, but after a while, I just was at the Comedy Store every night, and she said, there's behind the Errol Flynn house behind the.
That's what I was going to bring up. Yeah, talk a little bit about
Sandy
that.
Store, her daughter lived there, and me and this guy Tom were we lived there. She also gave me this other place to live with Mitchell Walters, where it was like a little shack. And I pretty much, my living room was the Comedy Store. So I was there every night.
Okay. So that was fortuitous for your career and building your career, right? I mean, especially if somebody likes you, like if the owner likes you and you're getting spots and you're getting sent to England and things like that. But you know what? You've had the most amazing career of all the comics I know. I think you probably have the most amazing career of anyone that I've ever met, because you look at your resume and it's like, what the fuck?
Well, I do the same thing every once in a while. I go, oh my God, that was cool. That was fun.
But you're you're also a hustler. I mean, you're out there doing what all comics are supposed to do. I had other obligations, so I couldn't, be in the city as much as I wanted. But I really admired, even way back then, I admired your work ethic. And I think any young comic that wants to know how to get ahead in this business ought to spend a couple hours talking to you, because it's the formula: hard work.
Yeah, stage time. It's the only way.
Absolutely.
I learned that. There was a comedian named, oh God, I can't, all of a sudden his name slipped my mind. And Jack, who lives in Sacramento now. And he was Jack Gallagher, and he was a comedian in Boston. And he was everyone looked up to him, and he told us all, just get on stage. And I would average, living in New York, 500 to 600 shows a year, just running. I do 22 spots in a week, running from club to club and writing, rewriting. And but I loved it. So it wasn't like I was, oh my God, I got to go. I just love it. And, Caroline's is closing.
Yeah.
And I just spoke to Jeff Ross today. He asked me to host both shows on Saturday, because he's one of the last weekends. And so for me to go back there and to host, it'll be really fun.
Good for you. Good for you.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we look back and, Caroline's, Dangerfield's, Improv, Catch, all gone.
Yeah. Dangerfield's, has gone through transitions back and forth, but it started in like 1969, and it was an incredible building. And a few times in my life, I was always hanging there. I live on the east side of Manhattan, so it was just a quick ride up to Dangerfields. And I go every night sometimes, that just there, and then run to Stand Up New York, or then run to the comic strip and do all that kind of stuff. So everything was kind of close by. There were like 14 major clubs, and I could go to the Cellar, and then I'd open up for bands. I got to open for Ray Charles. That was one of the coolest gigs of my life. He was so amazing to me too. He was so great.
Who else did we have on that worked with Rachel? Tommy Bowes was on the show with. He was singing sang with him. Yeah.
Ray
So
was amazing.
tell us, how did you get to Letterman? Because you were
It's who you know.
It's who you know.
It's who you know. I was working at the Dana Carvey show, and I was the warm up for Dana Carvey.
I got to talk.
Julia's
to you about
head is going to explode. I mean, she's got to say something.
No, because go ahead.
See, look at her.
And it was all these superstars hanging out together. Robert Smigel kind of ran the show, and he was always good to me, and always got me involved in whatever he did. And so I did that, and the show didn't last very long. So what happened was one of the producers was writing at Letterman, and then Letterman said, "Hey, I need a warm up." And they go, "We got Eddie Brill. We just, I left there, and he doesn't have that job." And I got a 6-week trial period that went for 17 years.
But go back to Dana Carvey's show for a minute, because I
Right.
watched the documentary on that. Do you know the story, Kat?
No. Mm-mm.
This thing was the cast on this. Who Eddie
Steve Carell and Louis C.K. was one of the producers, and
Colbert
I mean, it
was
was
on it.
Colbert,
Who
it was
else?
Dana
It was,
Carvey.
oh,
It was boom, 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 all.
it's just
And Smigel was
incredible.
the genius.
Yeah, and Smigel too. Right.
Right.
But was it ABC? Was it ABC that had it?
It was filmed at the CBS studios, but I think it was an ABC show.
It was an ABC show. Their opening segment had a thing about George Bush, George the father. Was it? It was the
Right.
father, right? Where I forget how it about him being kind. I guess that's what it was. And he, you want to tell the story? Go ahead, because
No, you
this guy.
tell it.
Okay, so they
Somebody tell
Go
the
ahead.
damn story.
Yeah, tell the story. I don't know
Tell
which
the
one. You
story.
the one about where he's breastfeeding the puppy.
Oh, right, yeah, that's right. So
Tell it.
yeah.
Go ahead.
it was the front was made like a cow, like, so milk was shooting out of all the udders and all that stuff. It was hilarious. The crowd was going crazy and everything was good. And I don't know more of the story except I laughed my ass off there, and then found out that they weren't able to, people weren't happy at the networks with this kind of bit.
At one point, he had puppies suckling.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that was just the beginning of this thing. It only lasted, what, 6 episodes or 7 episodes?
Yeah, it was a very short thing. I only did a couple of episodes of it. I came on late. My first warm-up gig, and I had never done warm-up, but I was so broke and needed the money. I did Saved by the Bell.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's Greek? Was that
the
the
guy I
Greek
went to
story?
college with I was in LA at the Comedy Store. I had 30 cents in my pocket, and he said, "I'll give you get $1,000 a week. It's every 2 weeks." And the coolest part for me was that the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson was literally 6 feet away from our studio, so I was able in breaks to go over there and watch them film that, and it was pretty amazing.
That's the thing about your career. You have this way about you that I'm a big fan of the laws of attraction, and you have this way of putting yourself in these places where you need to be, but you kind of almost will yourself to those places, and it's just so fascinating to me whenever I read your stuff. And then I just happen to open for Rachel, and then I just happen to be, sleeping at the Comedy Store. It doesn't just happen, I don't think.
But some things, like my roommate back at the Errol Flynn house was Tom Waring, who was the box office guy at the Comedy Store. So if someone didn't show, he would look for a comedian to fill in. But so I stood next to him all night, and I ended up doing all 3 rooms by the end of the night, because people, were like big stars were booked and then they didn't show, and I'm ready to go on. So, it really got to work out. Plus, I'm watching the greatest comics in the world and learning so much from Taylor Negron and Sam Kinison and Roseanne Barr and Louie Anderson, and all these people were just John Mendoza, Robert Schimmel. I have a long list of people that, did so much for me, and a lot of the Boston guys too, Don Gavin and all those guys, Barry, what's his face, Bearcat, and yeah, and so, so I vowed I would do that for younger comics. And I've done that my whole life. I've been in places where I get to help comics. People don't even know what I'm doing behind, closed doors for festivals and stuff, demanding that comics get a certain respect and integrity to it. Even when I was at Letterman, I was, there weren't very many comedians on the show, and I said, "Look, we need more." And I would fight, and I would fight with the producers, and they would be like, "Who do you work for?" I go, "Well, I work for you guys, but I'm a comedian, and I know what it's like to be in my position and not have that many spots for comedians." And they came around, and were able to put more comics.
Were you
on.
at that point the talent coordinator, or were you still doing?
Yeah, it took me. I started in '97, 2001. I became the talent coordinator, and it was before 9/11. So I did that, and but I kept doing the warm up, because even when I was on the show as a guest, Dave would have me do the warm up. I go, but don't you want the? He says, no, you're the warm up guy. So I was there 17 years, 14 years. I didn't have a day off from them.
Wow.
I mean, not that we didn't work every day, but I worked every show, even when I had laryngitis, because he wanted me out there, and it was the greatest feeling in the world to know that he said that.
Wait a minute, so you did the warm up, and then you went and did a set on the show later on?
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
How weird was that?
At the first time, I didn't know how it would go, and it went well, and then it was good. I handled it in a way that I thought was best. I said to the audience, look, I'm going out there. You don't have to scream louder. Just, I'm pretty funny as it is, as you've seen so far. I might get funnier. I might get worse. You're my team. And then that kind of thing.
Did you ever want to write for the show too? I mean, did you?
I did unofficially. Like, I was at his desk in every commercial break, and we'd talk about sports or the Beatles or life or whatever was in the news. But sometimes all of a sudden, like in the warm up, Dave would talk to some guy who was in the Army, and all of a sudden it was let's write a top 10 list. Let's get rid of the one we have and write it for this guy. And so we'd all get around the desk, and then I'd be able to write, and I'd come up with ideas, and they would use them.
Was Bill Sheft was already there? Was Bill Sheft already there?
Yeah, Sheft was in and out while I was there. Sheft was there at the beginning, and he was helpful at the because he was a conduit, and also Dave's assistant Lori went to Emerson as well, like me. So it didn't hurt that she really helped me there as well. And then Bill was away from the show for a while, and I got to work one-on-one with Dave more than not. And then Bill came back to the show, and it was like he had never left and continued to do.
Do you still talk to Dave?
I don't, weirdly enough.
Okay.
I've sent messages to him, but a lot, I get together with a lot of the crew still in the band and all these different people, the directors, and we all get together, the writers and stuff. But Dave is on his, it's a smaller group now. None of the people from the original show produce, the thing he does on Netflix.
Right.
There's just one person from the past. There are two people from the past, but it's not because he hates people. He's just a new chapter in his life.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
One of the things I loved was you wrote an essay about Rickles, your time with Rickles. You want to just sort of recap?
Sure. Well, my father really didn't want me to be a comedian at first, but eventually he became my biggest fan, which is a great ending to an incredible story. But he loved Rickles. Rickles was his favorite, next to, he loved comedy. My mom was the funniest person on the planet. She really was. People would, like doctors would call me and say, when I see your mother's on the schedule for that day, I'm not going to miss it because she makes me laugh, but my dad loved Buddy Hackett, and they would all go see shows together, and they were always having fun. So when Rickles came to Letterman early on, I went up to meet him in the dressing room. I'm not supposed to, but I went anyway. And he grabbed me by the arm, get in here. And we spent like a half hour. He wants to know more about my career and what's it like working in Europe and all this stuff. And we became close. And then I was able to go have dinner with Sheft and Letterman and Rickles, which was one of the greatest nights of my life, laughing for 2.5 hours. So the next time Rickles is on Letterman, I'm now the booker, and I just had come back from working in Hong Kong, and I was telling Rickles about all that. So Rickles comes on the air with Dave, and Rickles can't remember the name Tommy Lee Jones. And I yelled from the side, Tommy Lee Jones. And Rickles goes, I was going to get it, you hockey puck or whatever kind of thing. And Dave said, that's so mean. Why would you yell at Eddie? He gave you the answer. He goes, I love Eddie Brill. He said, he's the greatest. I know all about his career, and he started listing off going to Europe and becoming the booker and going to Hong Kong. And
did you capture that clip? I would have captured that clip and just played it on a loop.
And I told my father to watch, and my stepmother said that he cried because he never thought I was, his favorite comedian, loved his son, and that kind of really set everything in motion for a better relationship.
Oh, that's good. Well, so Rickles healed your family.
Yeah, in a sense. And every time Rickles would come on the show, I'd see him before. And then as he got older, I'd help him, with climb the step. We'd put him in place. He was like 1,000 years old at the end. Right. But all comics are. Phyllis Diller and George Burns. Everybody dies when they're 120. This comedy keeps you, So Rickles is like 175, and he's on the show, and he's still getting it done. It's still hilarious, but he needed
That's
help.
the thing. Yeah, your brain. I mean, I need help getting on the stage. If there's
I
stairs,
needed help sitting down.
Yeah, I mean, I honest to God, when I'm on a, if there's stairs to get to the riser or whatever the hell it is, or the stage, I need to be helped up because I have a bad back, and as I'm climbing up, I'm going, Jesus Christ, I'm one of those comics now,
Yeah, well, me too. In a sense, I've hurt my back, I hurt my leg, and all that kind of stuff. But the last time Rickles was on, I helped him down and sort of like held his hand, and it was just, I'll never forget it. He passed away not long after, and I just remember that the last thing I had with Rickles was helping him and holding his hand.
What a memory!
What a memory! So amazing. I mean, Carlin was my hero and became my friend. I'm friends with his whole family.
Wow.
Carlin called me up and said he wanted me to teach his wife, to do stand up. I go, but you're George Carlin, and he said he's not going to listen to me. I'm her boyfriend. So, but so he
it's like
called
trying to teach her to drive. You need to know you get a driving teacher.
It's so true. So I have incredible stories, 4 or 5 Carlin stories where he's just amazing to me, and so it really has been a dream come true life, and I'm not ready to throw the towel in. I want more. I have more dreams and things.
Who do you want to work with now? Like, who have you not worked with that you would love to work with?
Johnny Carson, even though no, I'm kidding.
Okay.
But I do. I really regret never meeting him because I ran a comedy festival. I started this festival in his honor, or I at least was one of the architects of the festival and booked all the talent on it. And I'm bummed that I never got to meet Johnny. I saw him in person when I was working at Saved by the Bell, but I never got to meet him. But I wonder who. It's mostly people who have passed. I always wanted to meet Sophia Loren. I got to meet her because I had her posters in my room.
Is she beautiful in person?
Beautiful and charming and just like a knockout. And she
Wow.
How long ago was that?
I don't know, 2000, 2004. I was, in that era. She was incredible. And like all the kids had the posters of Farrah Fawcett from my era, the nipple poking out of the orange bathing suit picture. But I didn't have that. I had the Sophia Loren from Two Sisters poster, one of my favorite movies, and on the wall. And then I told her and she kissed my hand, and I was like, it was ridiculous. I mean, I have a long list of, I sat on the piano bench with Burt Bacharach. Have you
written all this down? Have you written all this down, Eddie?
I've written like 320 different stories from my career, but it's hard to find a publisher because so people say I should self-publish, but I don't want to run around comedy clubs with a book in my hand, But I'm not giving up on it. I keep writing. I write 3 or 4 times a week.
It's great.
Well, what was the occasion for you to go to Hong Kong, and how did that come about?
There was a gig, an Australian guy who grew up in Hong Kong. He was a baby born in Australia. It's John Moorhead or Morewood, I think it is. I'm sorry, John, if you hear this. And I didn't get you, but he was bringing British comics over to Hong Kong. So the British guy said, "Hey, you got to do this. You got to meet this John, and he's gonna, he'll be interested in bringing you over." He said, "I'll bring you over, but you got to fly from London to do it." And it's mostly expats, and when I was there, it was 2001. It was August of 2001, which was a month before 9/11. Wow. So I'm over there, and it just was the takeover when the British were kicked out and the Chinese now are back to running their country. So it was a lot of English-speaking expats there who were dying for English-speaking entertainment. So this guy put on an incredible variety show with comics and, dancers and all this kind of stuff. And it was spectacular.
Was it a theater?
It was in a theater. And they sold out every show because people were like, and they were closing the door because they're sold out. People were like, let me in.
Looking in the really windows.
Yeah.
You bring a memory to me. Were you on Letterman when 9/11 happened? Were you there at that time?
Yeah, I was. I started
that
in
97. That show when he came back, I kind
of so proud to be part of that.
I don't blame you. I well up just watching him, that, thinking about it. I've watched that clip every 9/11. I go, that's one of the clips I go back and watch.
Were you
because
part of
it-
that? Were you part of putting that together, or did you guys all get
I
together? Or
mean, I didn't sit in a meeting with him before the
Yeah.
show. He took his oldest compadres and they sat around in
Yeah.
a circle and came up with ideas. I was the first person the audience saw, so as the warm up. So I had to come out and be funny, but not be morose. Not. It was kind of a very interesting thing. And I said, "Look, folks, here we go. We need to laugh and let's have fun together." And it's like, it's amazing. When in the 90s, when they had the earthquake in San Francisco in October during the World Series, I went out there with Robert Schimmel to do a comedy show at Cobb's, and I never heard an audience laugh as hard as I did, because it was after their tragedy, and the catharsis of being able to laugh it was unbelievable. I couldn't breathe because of their laughter. Well, when I came back to America and worked 9/11, or came back to America from Hong Kong and Europe and all that, and I did 9/11 shows after 9/11, it was even more powerful. It's amazing how comedy heals and helps.
Even
yeah,
when you
we-
look at Ellen on the awards, I mean, she came out and was basically in your face with the with her awards. Was it the Emmys or the?
It was at the Emmys, and what was
Yeah.
very interesting is that Woody Allen came out and did stand up at the Emmys came out to do stand up, which he hadn't done in a million years. They convinced him, and it was a really funny set, like he was in the 60s. It was very interesting how laughter became, the best piece of, currency in the world at that time.
But do you think, and we've had this discussion with other guests on the show about the state of comedy today, in a cancel culture, in an overly sensitive political culture, where you really have to watch what you say, and comics screaming, freedom of speech, we should be allowed to say what we want. Do you feel that that's still the case, that comedy is can be as healing as it was, say, back
It can
in
be. It can be, because to make someone laugh, it's an emotion that's very difficult. You can make someone cry very easy. Look at Patch Adams. It's formula crying movie.
Right.
It doesn't mean the movie's bad. It's a movie that you could just set it up in a way. But to make people laugh, there's a certain kind of rhythm that goes along with making people laugh. Those verbal and nonverbal cues that make people laugh. And I think it's very powerful. Things have changed. People have become, on the internet, and no one's going out as much, and all those kind of things. Fear, which has always been the teacher, and especially in America. That's why there's so many issues, because we teach people through fear instead of compassion. That's just the way it is. So comedy's job is to, be compassionate and poke fun at all of this, stick in your ass kind of attitude that people have.
Yeah, but if we're getting shouted down and having beer thrown at us, and
there's no room for that. There's no room for that. In fact, the people who need it the most are the ones shouting the most, because everyone wants to be famous for 15 seconds, as they say. And when you're on the internet, you think that there are a million people following you, when it's you and your 6, buddies from high school or something that are getting together. And then if you do get, I did a podcast that was from Finland, and the name of the podcast changed my life. The name of the podcast was "We're Not Here to Please You," and it clicked. It was like, wait a second. I'm not here to please you, to the audience. I'm here to do what I love and tell my truth and have fun. If you're pleased, that's amazing. But people would say to me, I didn't like that Chappelle joke. I said, well, he's not here to please you. Wait a few minutes and another comedian will be on.
That lesson was something I learned when I came back to comedy. When I came back after my transition, and after I was away for 10 years, I went back with the idea that I'm not there to please them. I'm there to please me, to talk about the things I want to talk about. And if you want to come along for the ride, I'd love to have you.
Yeah. That's what really changed my life and my comedy is, I've said it on stage. I'm not here to please you when someone was angry at the scenario. It's much more alluring. Think about, relationships you have with people. And if you see somebody with a backbone who's not there kissing your ass every 5 seconds, it's much more alluring when someone you can have differences and also at the same time coexist. And that's why I don't have to please you every second. I of course I have to please the audience to get laughs, but we're not here to please you. Yeah.
Well, that was the thing when Chappelle came out with his recent trans stuff. Everybody comes to me because I'm like the go-to trans person. Yeah. And I said, do I think it's funny? No, I don't think it's funny. But you know what? I have the option to turn the channel. I don't have to. He can say whatever he wants. It's not my, I don't care. Don't listen to him if you don't like him. That's the thing I think people don't understand. If you don't like the comic, don't listen. Move on.
George Carlin told me it's no one can argue with your perspective. They could disagree with it, but if you're truthfully telling your truth and your perspective, then that's funny to you. Then the audience they might not like it. The best compliment I ever got in my life. I was working in Boise. You have to say Boise because they get mad. I said we don't say New Jersey, but that's another thing. In Boise, these 4 Mormon women came up to me after the show, and I had done a whole chunk on religion, especially being in Mormon world. And these women came up to me and said, "Look, we didn't agree with anything you said about religion, but we respect the way you brought it up." And I only did that because of what Carlin taught me. And I'll never forget that compliment because I took the people that would completely want to kill me into, saying, okay, look, we don't agree, but we had a great time tonight.
It's a simple rule, but okay, I'm sorry, Kath, go ahead.
No. Did you ever hear the saying, it's almost impossible to hate somebody that makes you laugh?
I never heard that, but it's so true.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard that one time and I thought about it. It's like, it's almost impossible to hate someone who makes you laugh because it elicits an emotion that is so powerful in your brain and releases all the dopamine and everything you need. And it's amazing. So,
yeah, it's amazing. There's a lot of things I laugh at that are so wrong. And I laugh at it because it's so wrong.
Yeah,
I did. Yeah.
We had Billy West on last week. And
great. I love Billy.
I love Billy too. And he said a couple of things that were just so wrong, but he was putting me away. I was dying laughing. He's just so funny.
Now, the more it's wrong, the funnier it is to me.
Sure, it's like laughing in church, or something like that. What are you doing? You do mostly stand-up now, or what are you doing?
Well, since the pandemic hit, I haven't done that much stand-up. I had a lot of stuff set up, and unfortunately, there's a club in Alameda, California that I helped create with the owner, who's an incredible guy, and we were opening up. Me and Jake Johansson were doing the very first show on April Fools that year, and then of course everything got shut down. I started working on 3 major projects before the pandemic. One is a comedy series. One is a music series I executive produced, and another one was there's a situation, you might have heard of it, where comics haven't been getting their money from these platforms. If like say, Kathy, you and I wrote a song, you wrote the words and I wrote the music, we both get paid for our job. Right. But as a comic, the law is to pay comedians for their writing and performing, but we've only gotten paid for the performing part. So now I'm with this company that is getting all of the because it's a law. It's not like it's an opinion or an emotion. Right. Getting people to getting the estate of Robin Williams and of Richard Pryor and on and on and on, putting together, and there's money coming back to everybody that's owed
great.
to them. There's going to be, so I'm working
as the writer, not just the performer.
Came and crushed everything, and then I put on a lot of weight and I was uncomfortable. I got COVID. I was very sick. So now, little by little, I'm getting back. I still love stand up like crazy. I'll do stand up, and then I won't be able to sleep for the whole night because I'm just so high from it.
Isn't that weird? We're like 42 years in, we still you're driving home that night and you go, wow, I fucking killed tonight. And you're laying in bed that night and you're playing the setback in your head. Yeah.
And you wish
Did
you
you ever-
recorded it because you know that one thing was gold. Like,
Oh,
what
I
did I
know.
say? It was perfect.
What is
Sometimes
that?
I yell to the audience and I go, "Remember what I just said?"
I've done
Somebody,
that too, yeah. And
That
they
was
never
funny.
do.
Remember that?
Yeah.
yeah, remember that line? That's worked out pretty good.
Are you working? Are you doing the clubs in New York? Or you just?
I wasn't I was Dangerfields was where I was hanging out all the time, and they went not only to go under, they're closed. I mean, for good. It's
I
not like the
know,
other
God,
clubs. I was,
They-
We're
I-
I
going to be
worked
back
all
at
the
the
clubs.
ground round.
Yeah, I would love that. All those places.
Yeah.
I was lucky because I ran my own club, and every weekend I pretty much hosted, or what's his name? Colin hosted, or we ran it ourselves. And, we gave a lot of comedians their very first New
Yeah.
York spot. Wendy Liebman, a lot of people got Adam Sandler, their very first sets. We were able to, Colin and I kind of ran that place. And we were comedians who knew what comedians wanted. And I'll always love that I had that. But of all the great things I've done in my life, still stand up is the one far and away that I love the mostest.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I'm starting to do some acting things now, but it's like I don't like it as much. It's not stand up. It's
not
stand up.
stand-up.
No, stand up is sacred, man.
It is. But I
yeah.
like the acting stuff. I like playing, and I like doing everything. Producing. I like front of the camera, behind the camera. My whole
I don't
family.
dislike it. Don't get me wrong. I don't dislike it, but it's not stand
Yeah,
up.
yeah. And I also work with students. I run workshops all over the world for over 25 years. And I don't believe you can teach comedy. You either got it or you don't, but I don't pretend to teach it. I run workshops where we give each other feedback, and we try to let people understand, maybe we have that perception of them that they don't really know. No one's really, like, if we do a show together, all three of us, and when we didn't see each other's set, we were at the bar. When we're done, it's like, hey, nice set. We're not being mean. We're just being polite.
Being
But in
supportive.
these workshops, yeah, right. And in these workshops, we're just telling each other the truth and say, look, we're with respect, with integrity. Here's my perception of what you did. Just not for you to say I did it because of this. Just to hear how other people see you and hear you. And one of the greatest lines I've ever heard was they asked Michelangelo how you made this incredible statue of David out of a chunk of marble. And he said, I just chipped away at the pieces that weren't him.
Right.
And ever since I've heard that, all I keep doing as a comic, as older as I get, I keep chipping away. And here I am on stage. I'm not here to please you. I have so much fun. You might not remember my name, but you'll never forget me.
Well, we're
That's
never
great.
going to forget your name. I
Oh my
am so
gosh.
grateful that you came on tonight. It's just we bumped into each other all through these years, but we were never like close friends. But
yeah, we never hung out. But it was when I saw you at Gotham underneath that first time we'd seen each other in like 7 or 8 years or whatever. It was just like yesterday. It's like,
yeah, it's
so
always
anyway.
like that. Yeah, right. Exactly. It's always like that.
So like I was saying.
Well, don't make this. Let's I'm be coming into the city or something. We'll just get together and have some dinner or lunch or something, or a pizza.
Yeah, no, that would be great. And I do that. I've been calling comics and getting together. Nancy Parker and I had some lunch, and just all the old friends. Susie Essman and I are still friends, and we do a lot of things together. And Mario Cantone's my fraternity brother from college.
Yeah.
Emerson.
Yeah.
Pretty. Yeah.
Boy, I wish I'd have gone there.
I know, right?
I would have had a career. No,
we just fell into some shit. We just fell into it, and we didn't think it was anything. We were just having the time of our lives. I was in the very first skit in that group, the very first line, and I got the very first laugh. And I remember that laugh like it was today. I remember that laugh. I remember what I was wearing. I remember how it felt. I remember what part of the room I was in. I remember the sound.
Do you remember the joke?
That laugh. It wasn't a joke. It was a skit where I was a cowboy, a dumb cowboy.
Okay.
And big stretch. And no, it was my friend Adam wrote it. There was a guy named Keno from Boston who was at Emerson. He was in it.
Okay.
I remember the whole thing, and it if
It's
I still and I've
it's
been
right up
chasing that
there with
left.
like yeah, I mean,
What's
it's like
that?
the Kennedy assassination. You know exactly where you were, what you did, and what
Yeah.
it was like. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Well, oh, geez, Eddie, thank you so much for coming out. We're gonna.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep you up,
It's
but
my
you know,
pleasure.
oh,
I just
call
wish
me
I had
so
a
we can
better
do
angle.
this.
I'm
No,
You're
you
the whole
great.
time.
No, you're good.
You know
Nope.
what? Most people
Perfect.
listen to this on their radio anyway, so it's that. It's,
Okay, good.
you know, I once did one of these totally nude and nobody noticed. So.
I'm nude right now, underneath
Ah.
these clothes.
What
All the clothes. When is
Well,
this?
how
Is
the-
this
what a
live?
pleasure.
Are we live? I didn't even ask you if we're live
No,
or in air.
this will air in about 2 weeks. So
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed me 2 weeks ago at Caroline's before I closed down.
Yeah, man, that's kind of get some pictures, get lots of pictures.
Yeah, that I lived there. I did 200 shows literally 1 year at Caroline's alone.
My gosh.
And the original one
so-
or the
The one
The Eighth Avenue
I've done all
one.
3 of them. I've done all 3. I did a
I
lot of
only
great
did
ones.
South Street and then this one, but I never did the original one. No.
Wow.
Yeah, I did the original one twice, and it wasn't crowded. It was more like get young comics onto the stage and do that. But I went a lot. I saw Seinfeld and Stephen Wright, who is still my buddy all these years.
Oh.
We laugh like we're 12 years old. When we get together, we laugh. It's unbearable. We almost have to prepare for it. I swear, we've almost gotten kicked out of restaurants because we make each other laugh since we've known each other. And the last time the both of us were literally crying, laughing. It's just so beautiful that all these years later we're still friends, and comedy makes us feel better.
That's why we're so blessed. We
Yeah.
are so blessed, and we're blessed to have you. Thank you so much for coming, and
It's my pleasure.
and I'll see you when you get to the city.
That'll be great. Yeah, and both of you keep in touch. And I'm at Eddie Comic at Instagram. I think I'm at everything, but Instagram.
Okay.
Eddie Comic. It's just easier to remember.
Yeah,
I'm at
okay.
whatever. I don't
Eddie,
know.
thank you. What a pleasure. Thank you for being
Thank
It's
you
here.
my
so much.
pleasure. Really fun. And
Yeah.
So have a beautiful night. And
Come back.
It's cold in late December when this is airing. Ooh.
Ooh. Ooh.
That's why we have a
You see my-
fire.
Oh, you should see
Oh,
my
yes.
Christmas presents.
Very nice.
Oh,
Well,
thank
be
you.
well, you
Good
guys.
night.
I hope to hear
Take
from
Me
you.
care.
too, Eddie.
Take
Take care. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. We just keep getting luckier and luckier. don't we?
Home run after home run after
You
home
just,
run. Oh my gosh. I mean,
Yeah.
when I started, I remember him just all over the place hosting shows, and it's like, oh, Eddie Brill's the host there. It's just like,
And
just-
I knew him from the city, but I would just go, how the hell does this guy keep?
yeah. I
But he
know.
worked
Well,
it-
because
he
he's
worked
funny
it
and
fun,
he's
so-
talented, and he's obviously
Please say
very,
I'm not
very-
funny.
Oh
Oh,
no,
okay.
no, I didn't say that.
Oh, all right.
I implied it.
Well, shut up. Well, we're gonna look at you with the fireplace. You're like a Hallmark special behind you there.
I know it's
Honest
going to
to
be
God.
the fireside chats with Kathy.
Mm. All right, I'm gonna go have my esco.
You want me to
and
read
be-
it? It's what I'll do for the next show. I'll read a book by the fireplace.
Was the night before Christmas? You got to.
I'll have some hot cocoa.
Yeah,
And
okay. And play.
and I'll
play
get a
some
dog.
Osmond.
I'll get a
You
dog.
do get a dog. You're gonna get. I saw Charlie. How's he adjusting?
He's pretty happy. He loves the fireplace.
Does he? Oh yeah, I bet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he keeps rolling over. It's like heat. It's like the sun's here.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
good. Good.
But
All right.
he's
Well,
doing okay.
no-
He's staring at me right now.
okay.
I love you, Julia Scotti. I know you're mad at me.
I'm not mad at you.
I need
just-
all of our listeners and all of our viewers to give Julia your support and tell her I love her and
In
that
this
people can
difficult time.
be far away from each other and still be very close.
I told you the reason why I have separation anxiety, it'll take me. This show went a long way towards sort of normalizing us again, but I can no
Thank
longer
God for
tell-
Eddie Brill.
Shut up. Play the fucking music, will you?